That is the final dungeon. Its name is Babel, and it's where the Demon King awaits the heroes. A fierce battle is underway now, and he is trying to end the life of one of the invaders. It's about to execute one of his attacks. He confirms that this will be the end of this human. Before him is the tyrant of the 12 golden thrones, and to the demon, that one doesn't seem to be humanity's most powerful hunter. Furthermore, something very special was going to happen with the power this hunter holds, as it will also belong to the Demon King, who has now grabbed him by the neck. Right after that, he managed to throw him to the ground. The force of the impact spread blood everywhere. It's clear that someone is likely no longer alive. At that moment, golden hair began to light up inside the dungeon, but it wasn't a super Cyan. It was a magic user who was about to cast a powerful spell. At that moment, the Demon King realized there was still one person alive in that place. The most powerful hunter was no more, and that little girl could do nothing before him. She completely ignored the Demon King's words and used the vein of immortality against him. At that moment, the demon was surprised by an attack from behind. Coming from the enemy he thought he had defeated, he takes a moment to understand what had happened. While the hero says his enemy tends to let his guard down too much, after pulling himself off the sword, the demon said he would not be defeated by a superficial wound like that. The creature, on the other hand, had no time to recover as something was already happening. He was inside a magic circle and hadn't noticed when it was cast. His body began to be imprisoned by the chains of Glitner.
Oh, that's when the Demon King realized he would not be able to move freely.
The hero is now using the Avatar of Zeus technique against him, making the deity appear
at his back. Faced with this, the Demon King felt offended at being pressured by a mere human. While the hero found those words inconvenient, he said that he had already defeated that creature 6 times, and that the Demon King is in fact insignificant. Lightning descended from above and began to strike the Demon King's body devastatingly. The impact and flash of those bolts could be seen from many meters away. That's when the hero decided to take something from his pocket that he had brought. For this fine occasion, showing he has no self-respect whatsoever, he began to smoke something more dangerous than the Demon King himself. Approaching the creature's body, he said that even though he was going to be defeated anyway, the Demon King always makes things so difficult. The girl with him is named Johns. She asked what the reason was. The hero said she had created the shield at the perfect time. She said that he could have saved everyone, that they believed in him, and had even followed him. Then, outraged, she asked why he hadn't protected everyone, and why he wanted so badly to defeat that Demon King. The hero calmly continues to smoke his cigarette. The truth is, he has already returned 13 times, and the result is always destruction. Needless to say, if they were defeated, destruction would come anyway. When they defeated that dungeon, the result also remained the same. Great war among humans happens right after that, between the new hunters of the new humanity and those who belong to the old world. To try to make the world a perfect place, they tried to merge human consciousness, just like what they tried to do in Evangelium with the Human Instrumentality Project. But it was just full of people who were out of their minds. And this plan was also motivated by completely crazy people. Hunters tormented by their personal traumas from everything they experienced inside those dungeons. There were hunters who were murderers, and those whose abilities had gone out of control, and those who spent a lifetime fighting to protect their grandchildren, or those who were abandoned in a dungeon at 8 years old. This perfect world also met only with destruction. Remembering all this, our protagonist threw his cigarette away, and he needs to defeat absolutely everyone, not just the Demon King, but also these hunters who will end up destroying the world. And now he has his sword ready to continue his work. The girl who accompanied him was the first on the cleanup list. Her chest now has a huge wound from spikes that came out of the ground. But this left our protagonist very frightened, as he is holding a sword, not spikes. Looking back, he was immediately surprised by what he saw. The Demon King was still alive, and he was the one who attacked the girl. He also said that the hero's ability is weak. Proudly, the demon stated that the hero should not think he will leave that place victorious. Using the full extent of his abilities, several thorns shot out from the ground, further destroying that dungeon. One of them is dangerously approaching the hero, who is trying to escape the approaching attacks. But his body ended up being hit by the Demon King's attacks, and the wounds his body had sustained appear to be mortal. The Demon King refuses to believe he has already been defeated 6 times by this hero, and the boy says that by the 10th regression, he could already defeat him alone. At this time, he had to deal with the hunters. The hero realized that the damage caused is not enough, and that he should not have given up the divine spear of Leganus, located on the 65th floor. And if he had the power of King Asura or the avatar of Uranus, he would have been able to win with that combination. The Demon King was startled, as that knowledge should be hidden since it is not related to any type of mission. And the hero reminded the Demon King that he had already said he defeated him 6 times, and the count had not stopped yet. Without knowing how he had access to this knowledge, the Demon King began to find that human interesting. Even so, he said that his foolishness would meet its end now. Protagonist observes the attack being prepared by the creature, and said he was already fed up with it and would finish things as his enemy wished. Then he began to extend his hand towards him. That is the final dungeon. His name is Babel, and it is in this place that the Demon King awaits the heroes. Everything happened during New Year's. The Demon King appeared in the middle of the city, saying that people would be swallowed by terror, and something similar to a large portal had appeared in the city's sky. He said that the demons would bring extinction to all humanity. There was no hope for them. The people on the ground watched with great fear what was happening in the sky. A global-level cataclysm was happening. The entire Earth was compromised. That event caused the automatic appearance of almost 3,000 dungeons, proving panic to the people. From these portals, countless monsters immediately began to invade the Earth. Soldiers were ready to defend the Earth. Some were afraid, others enthusiastic. They only had one option now. They had to fight against those creatures. But that firepower against them was not effective. The monsters continued to advance with great confidence across the land. The military might of the soldiers was not effective and contained that aggression. The creatures seemed to be immune to everything. They needed to retreat, but those creatures were wiping out all the soldiers before that could happen. Fortunately, for those soldiers, someone armed with his spear decided to appear. And using his weapon, he managed to dispatch the creature that was threatening that platoon. Humanity was completely without hope. It was only a matter of time until it was crushed. It was at this moment that those called hunters appeared to defend the Earth. They are awakened individuals who can control secondary beings called avatars. Their form and power depend on the hunter's hidden talent and personality. They can range from gods to mythological heroes. They can assume any form to demonstrate their power. Humanity finally had a chance to fight. Even so, millions of lives were lost around the planet. And even though there was hope, things were not over. That was just the beginning. When they saw the message that the tutorial had been completed, people panicked. It was hard to believe that that small experience was just a brief introduction, till behind that young man, an intense glow appeared. People looked at the source of the light, but it blinded their eyes due to its strong intensity. A divine being had a message for the people of Earth. The Archangel Metatron has a request for all of them. So far, she has managed to do her best to prevent that invasion. That is why they needed the help of those people. The hunters would advance towards the dungeon called Babel, reaching the last floor and defeating the Demon King. If this is not done within 20 years, even more powerful monsters will be unleashed, and this entire dimension could be destroyed, not just Earth. The archangels said that hope should not be abandoned, as hunters can become infinitely stronger within that dungeon. And the angels promised to provide humanity with the best possible support, through the blessing of the higher. God's humanity will never be alone. Thus, the first incursions into the dungeons had begun. But things were not so easy on the inside. That group of heroes having difficulty defeating weak creatures. At this rate, they will be annihilated. There was no other option but to flee and try to preserve their lives. Thinking he was going to die, the boy started screaming worriedly, saying that he didn't want his life to end that way. Fleeing from the creatures, he realized that something had happened. Being in too much of a hurry during his escape, he ended up tripping over a rock in the middle of the path. He immediately fell to the ground, because of that unplanned event. One of his companions tried to warn him to get up as quickly as possible. A creature was already approaching to end his life, which increased the team's despair as he would end up dying that way. The Minotaur executed its blow with an axe in the direction of that hunter. Imagining that the worst had happened, his companions began to limit, and now the creature can turn its attention to the surviving people. While the boy's body lies on the ground, people screamed desperately to stop that monster. The impact of the creature's weapon happened near Mir, our protagonist. He almost lost his life in this event. Gangok is over 200 years old, and this is his 13th regression. After getting up, Gangok found the body of one of his defeated companions. He thanked the sacrifice. If it weren't for that, the creature wouldn't have shifted its attention at the last moment. The boy ordered the observer avatar to analyze the situation and make a report. As he bent down to pick up some items from his former companion, he apologized for it. At that moment, other people also arrived there. The young man said they needed to hurry as they had already lost 2 companions. That's when someone asked what our protagonist was doing. The girl thought he must be in shock, having seen a corpse for the first time in his life. But she recognized our protagonist as he is her big brother. Gander found what he was looking for. On that body was a pack of cigarettes and a lighter. And now he can continue indulging his beloved vice. After a few puffs, he said, "There's nothing better than a cigarette after a regression." After that, several system images appeared before him, assuming he learned that the creature was the out-of-control Minotaur, the boss of that tutorial dungeon. The current team's strength is satisfactory for that level of challenge. He also noticed that Joni was with him. That's when the girl approached our protagonist, showing great concern. She said that place was very dangerous and that the young man needed to hurry and go to the rear. She was only 19 years old, and her avatar is the goddess of the sanctuary. As they were talking, another companion from that group told them to cut that moment short and start helping immediately. That's when this same young man noticed something unusual with his eyes. He asked if our boy was really smoking in a situation like that. Our protagonist said he only needed 2 minutes and would soon resolve this problem for everyone. The young man told him to stop joking or he would end up losing his life in that place, and he had already been warned about it. But our boy continued to inhale death with his mouth. Standing up very confidently, he guaranteed that he would finish it immediately, leaving I worried. The girl became worried about that and told our protagonist not to go near the creature, as he would end up losing his life. Ganhook knows he cannot follow it with his eyes now, due to his limitations. So there's only one realistic option for that combat, which would be to predict his enemy's movement. The creature became visibly enraged upon noticing the human's approach. It immediately began to contract the muscles of one of its arms, and our protagonist realized that was a sign. He knew exactly how the creature would begin to move, intercepting its attack before it happened. After cutting off some of the creature's fingers, it was no longer able to attack and began to agonize in pain. Ganek was extremely satisfied with the result of his actions and took the opportunity to continue executing attacks against the monster. The more he attacked, the more he enjoyed himself. Being brutally subjugated, all the creature could do was become increasingly enraged, opening its mouth like an idiot. Ganek used that opening to thrust his sword through the monster's mouth. After defeating it, he said that it was too pathetic, and no one should be stuck with such a weak creature. That's when he ended up being surprised by something unexpected. Goop began to feel pain throughout his body, a very intense pain. Somehow, the creature managed to grab him with its hands, and now his leg had been captured by the monster. Even wounded, the Minotaur seemed to know what it had managed to do. Our protagonist's companions became worried for him, realizing that the Minotaur had not been defeated yet. Ganek realized that due to his current status limitation, he couldn't end that monster's life. Looking at our protagonist, the Minotaur began to smile sadistically, as if he would greatly enjoy that moment. And because of this excessive petulance, he ended up being pierced directly in the eye by our protagonist's sword. Thus, perhaps he will learn not to be so foolish. Still on top of the creature, Ganhook does his best to send it to the afterlife immediately. Upon withdrawing the sword from the freshly caused wound, he managed to inflict even greater damage. Immediately after that, the system informed everyone that Ganhok was responsible for delivering the final blow to the Minotaur. His team was impressed that this had happened. Now the result of that mission would be announced, and our protagonist came in first place. Thanks to this, he received several titles and various achievements, which ended up strengthening him significantly. The problem is that even though he emerged victorious, the damage to his leg appears to be intense and severe. The boy was also quite exhausted and is almost losing consciousness. Being examined by his colleagues, they realized that his knee was completely compromised. Traditional healing magic will not be enough to restore it, which makes the situation worrying. Our protagonist is thinking that he just behaved like a fool once again. At that moment, Yancy excused herself from everyone, as she had something to do there. The girl began to use her healing magic on Gunhuki's damaged knee, using the Flower of Healing enchantment, which is a flevel, that seemed to have slightly improved the situation of the damaged joint. A little more relieved, she asked our protagonist not to exert himself so much as she would be worried if something happened to her brother. Shedding her tears over him, she asked the boy to wake up. Immediately after that, he moved a few fingers. After getting up, Ganhok said that she is worrying too much about it. In fact, they are not blood siblings. Gansey merely grew up in the same orphanage as our protagonist. The moment was interrupted by Park Chundae, who congratulated everyone on their work, acknowledging that they must be exhausted from that attack and now deserve a rest. He asked everyone to check what they had received in that distribution. Our protagonist realized that he had received less than he expected. He immediately considered that a bad joke. Hearing that Jumbi didn't like our boy's tone of voice, Ganhok said he only received useless things. Then he asked Jumbe to hand him his skill coin. This coin grants the user a permanent skill when used, and besides being extremely rare, it can be exchanged for great fortunes. While Jumbi feigned ignorance, another team member seemed to take offense on behalf of his boss, saying that our protagonist interfered at the last moment, stealing the credit for that execution and is now being too greedy. Openly concerned, Ganhuki asked if that guy had swallowed a dog, which confused him. That's when our protagonist revealed that every time that guy opens his mouth, he sounds like an annoying stray dog. His offense made Yoni worried, and that guy increasingly aggressive. He decided that he would resolve the conflict between the two through good old violence. But his blow was held back by someone who was observing everything. Jumbe was responsible for this and asked everyone to calm down in that place. Gok noticed that the team captain's skin had transformed. That is a bronze giant's ability, and because of that exceptional hardness, the guy ended up hurting his hand. The team captain apologized to our protagonist, and the reward should be distributed according to individual participation. But he acknowledges that he was greedy. Then he handed the skill coin to our protagonist. Our boy simply took the coin from his hands without saying anything. After taking his sister by the hand, he proceeded to leave that place. But not everyone was happy with the decision. He had made a man grab Jundi by the collar and asked if he knew the value of a skill coin. Even so, he handed the item to that incompetent person. This guy's hostility made the other team members worried about the captain. Jundi tried to say that they are all comrades there, and that things don't need to get so agitated. Besides, if they do, he knows how to behave in that situation. Furthermore, he was just following the rules. That wasn't his decision. The aggressive man realized that the captain's skin was already coated in bronze. Realizing that he could get into a lot of trouble, he let go of the captain's clothes and said that he is too confident because of this ability, assuring that one day someone would shatter this metal that protects him. But he also had a message for our protagonist. He stated that the world is a dangerous place where people lose their lives because of coins like this, and they saw several bodies in that place. And if they don't want to end up that way, they'd better change that greedy attitude. Our protagonist just followed the path, ignoring those words. And Joneo, on the other hand, asked if he was comfortable with that decision. If rumors are spread, they won't be able to be part of a team. But for Ganhok, none of that matters as he has no interest in joining with losers. Just the two of them are more than enough. While he lights his cigarette, Jansi says she has difficulty believing that. But the real difficulty lies in our protagonist abandoning that bad habit. That's when the girl decided to say she didn't know he smoked. Our boy continues to puff on that cigarette with the experience of at least 100 retirees. Stroking her head, he stated that the girl is still quitterable. Embarrassed by the compliment, she asked why he did that suddenly. But our protagonist was too dedicated to his cigarette. He ended up remembering an event from his past life where he had to end her life. Unfortunately, Shekel didn't keep living. Now that he has returned once again, Ganek means to go back to his strategy, and he began Towender when he would have to end her life. This time inside a building in the middle of the city, some children are playing inside. One of them used Thepawar of their avatar named Ikaro to levitate people, and now the children are playing in the hallway. One of them said that Big Sister Janzi will get upset when she finds out what's happening. But the one responsible for the game is Tukarefri. Arriving at the orphanage, Yoni reprimands everyone, saying that they shouldn't use their abolitionists inside, scaring all of them. While fleeing, the boy called Janzi a witch, which made her very upset. After all, she was only 19 years old and started chasing those children. As they ran down the hallway, they ended up passing in front of our protagonist's room, and they're inside the room. He was learning more about this regression. Seeing his status window, he remembered that this is already the 13th time he is trying to prevent the extinction of humanity, something he has been trying for hundreds of years. It's been so long that he has reached the limits of what it means to be human, and he began to think that this might be his last attempt. The avatar that Gryu possesses the observer. Both the hunter and his avatar possess a hidden potential. This can only be discovered by and now he cannot spend what he has. Even so was already the 13th attempt. And he already thought he could see the correct alternative to his question. He decided to use 82 coins to strengthen his avatar. That investment made him receive several levels in converting the value of those coins. Ganek realized that he spent 32 million Korean won. If his sister knew he got all that, she would certainly be upset. Now that his avatar is at level 9, they can synchronize. So Gangak begins the observe synchronization process. The first thing he asked his avatar was to read his information. And she began the synchronization process, immediately placing her hand on our boy's chest. As soon as she came into contact with him, something started to happen as if it generated discomfort in her. Holding the avatar by the hand, Gok said that they didn't have enough time. Then he asked if the avatar could see his version of the future through the memories it possesses, and indeed, it seems that information is painful for her. Inside our protagonist's room, a great light can be seen from outside. He gained the unique ability, Forced Awakening. The avatar said that the formed root will be expanded and that the potential had been confirmed. This information pleased our boy. He asked her to calculate the possible futures. This is one of her abilities, that of predicting the future, and she immediately tried to find an answer. Gan asked her to look for all hidden enemies and show them on the map. This is his avatar's third ability, detection, and as requested, she performed it. On the map, that's when she informed our protagonist that she had reached the limit of awakening and needs 5 C coins to get her final ability. For our protagonist, everything is happening as planned. And after observing the position of his enemies, he congratulated his avatar's work, who was already very exhausted. Some people area outside the orphanage as they know that our protagonist got most of the items from that attack. It's quite enraged. They want to exact revenge, and that jerk who was with him in the dungeon went there to take his life. One of them asked if it's okay to try to do that because our protagonist managed to defeat a minotaur alone. The footed man said that anyone could defeat the monster if it was off guard. These words reassured the fearful one, that he had found courage. The fearful one asked his friend to show him Vatar predation. The puted young man said that the 7th great summoning of the Tower of Babel would happen soon, and needed to get strong enough to run over anyone. In that place, there is an avatar with healing abilities and a hunter avatar that can defeat a minotaur alone. He is thinking of devouring both, because that way he could be promoted to rank B. His speech was interrupted by someone's agony. Fearful one was surprised by our protagonist, who had already managed to inflict a small abdominal wound on him. Showing his blood-stained knife, Ganek said that doing that to humans wasn't very satisfying. Those who were there to hunt realized they were being hunted. The hooded man immediately tried to attack our protagonist. To him, our boy is just an impertinent thief. In confirming the rumors, it seems he is courageous. Evenso, he thought the young man was very weak. Ganhawk said that if he wanted to get stronger, he should lift weights and use the juice. Right after that, he dodged the long-haired one's blow. Every time our boy returns, he ends up lasting his physical qualities, but some things are never lost. It didn't take long for another one of those jerks to get intimately acquainted with his. Knife Bomb Redoc is still extremely precise and lethal in all his attacks. And, thanks to his vast battle experience, he can quickly judge the danger of some situations. He was already prepared to defend himself from the two coming from above. With great ease, he managed to avoid being hit by both. All of that can only happen thanks to his battle senses. In a fight against people, there's no way he can lose. And the jerk started to wonder what kind of monster he was. The hooded man started to get annoyed with this situation, and the long-haired asked his captain if he could take care of it. Then he called for his avatar named Angolen. And behind him appeared an entity that resembled an arachnid. Its appearance was truly intimidating. Even our protagonist thought it might be monster. Determined to win that fight, the long-haired one ordered his avatar to turn our boy into a big puzzle. Even in the face of that frightening scene, Ganok was not scared by the enemy avatar and had already summoned the observer to help him in the fight, using his second ability, that of predicting a future. Observing the other avatar, the ability was completed. Our protagonist realized that something was going to hit him in the head. He immediately ducked, while understanding that his enemy was relying too much on the speed difference. After dodging that first attack, the boy made it to see all the others, because he could see arrows coming his way. Managing to avoid being hit by all those attacks provoking his opponent, he said that he could come from any direction. Upon hearing that, the long-haired one became deeply irritated, concentrating his attacks even more against our protagonist, who once again managed to avoid being hit, but this time tricked the avatar into attacking itself. Now, he can take the offensive position in the fight. Seeing our protagonist approaching rapidly, the long-haired one started to get worried. It was hard to believe, and before he could react, he had been cut by our boy. Acknowledging the severity of the wound, the long-haired one started to cough blood. His body fell defeated to the ground, and the hooded man asked why that young man was there. Responding to the man, Ganhunwook said that the reason that brought him outside is the same one that led those people there. He left home to take some lives. Finally, he managed to turn his attention to the one who appears to be the leader of these invaders. And for having tried to attack him, our boy ended up being thrown far away. The hooded man said that the time for our protagonist to play, the funny guy, was over. He tried to grab something hidden in his pocket, but realized he no longer had that object. So how immediately became worried, imagining he might have lost it. While our protagonist smiled at that, knowing what he was looking for, showing that he had taken the fire spitter from that bad element and asked why weapons that don't work on dungeon monsters were in the hands of these kinds of people. Knowing that things were about to get ugly, the hooded man ordered his men to flee, but he warned them too late. Our protagonist was playing target practice with those people. He had barely returned and was already having a lot of fun. In a few scans, the only thing left there were bodies fallen on the ground. And our protagonist decided to ask what that hooded man was doing because it's clearly noticeable that he's just pretending to be dead now that he had been discovered. The hooded man became very worried. He tried to react, but our protagonist shot at him, saying that he shouldn't have missed the opportunity to end his life in that dungeon. And it is revealed to us that this man is the captain capable of transforming his skin into bronze, and the shot hit the ground near him. Nick already knew the plans off that despicable being and intended to incriminate the bald man in the dungeon, who seemed much more suspicious, faced with the accusations. The captain denies everything until he is invited to seriously reflect on his positions in a situation of negotiation fragility. Our protagonist asked him if his eyes were also made of bronze, which left the captain desperate. And what scared the captain even more was our protagonist. Assertion that he already knows he's a member of the secret organization, the Giants. Gruyuk had a message for the captain to give to the Giants, Trash that sells its own soul for a reward will end up meaning a miserable end, and the savior hates small players. The captain was very confused and understood absolutely nothing. Protagonist realized he couldn't count on him. Hef fired another shot in his direction. But after living so many years, our boy is not the best example of mercy and online caused. Very painful injury. He lit another one of his cigarettes again while the captain's screams filled the air. He continued to feel a lot of pain, and our protagonist stepped on his chest. This time he pointed the flamethrower at the only remaining eye. Completely terrified, the captain begged for mercy, and our protagonist asked if the captain remembered the message he was supposed to deliver. Furious, he repeated exactly what our boy had said, and that the savior hates small players. He stood up after reading all that information, knowing he was closer to his goal. Firing a few more shots at his bronze skin, he told him to leave. The captain grabbed his hood and covered his head to hide his identity. Did all this while fleeing, leaving behind our protagonist, who continued to burn tobacco like a chimney. The system informed him that he had managed to defeat a gang of notorious assassins, receiving some rewards for having done something so incredible. He stood up after reading all that information, knowing he was closer to his goal. After all that had happened, our boy went to a dungeon inhabited by orcs, defeating several creatures. Even if they tried to oppress him, all were easily overwhelmed. Using something similar to a baseball bat, G is impressed with the quality of his hits. He slowly approached the creature he had just put on the ground. The creature stood up and said it was comfortable and did not fear humans, and ended up bowing. Before our protagonist, who was curious about that reaction, Greek asked the creature to answer a riddle, and he would allow it to leave. And he asked, "What is a rocket that explodes in just 1 second?" The creature had no idea what that was. Our boy used his guaranteed execution ability against it, hitting its head with a bat, saying that the answer to this riddle is the emptied head of that creature.